Daniel Carter, a young office worker, glanced at his watch. 11:58 p.m., another late night. Papers cluttered his desk. The soft glow of his computer screen was the only light in the room, casting eerie shadows on the walls. He sighed deeply, feeling the weight of the day's work pressing down on him. The office was silent, save for the occasional hum of the air conditioning and the distant sound of traffic from the streets below. Daniel rubbed his eyes, trying to shake off the fatigue that had settled in. He knew he had to finish this project, but his mind was already drifting to thoughts of his warm bed and the comfort of his home. Outside, the city slept. The streets were empty, the buildings dark. It was a stark contrast to the bustling metropolis that Daniel knew during the day. The city had a different kind of beauty at night, a serene and almost haunting quality. The street lights cast long shadows and the occasional car passed by, its headlights cutting through the darkness. Daniel often found himself mesmerized by the city at night, its quiet stillness a welcome respite from the chaos of his daily life. He packed his things, eager to escape the fluorescent hum of his office. The harsh lighting had always bothered him, making the long hours feel even longer. He carefully placed his files into his bag, making sure everything was in order for the next day. As he did so, he couldn't help but think about how much time he spent in this office, how many late nights he had endured. It was a sobering thought, one that made him question his choices and the path he had taken.
Another late night. I need to get out of here. The words echoed in his mind, a mantra he had repeated countless times. He felt a sense of urgency, a need to escape the confines of the office and breathe in the fresh night air. The elevator was his ticket to freedom, a way to leave behind the stress and pressure of his job, if only for a few hours.
He walked down the desolate hallway. The silence was almost oppressive, the only sound his footsteps echoing off the walls. The hallway seemed to stretch on forever, a never-ending path that he had to traverse every night. Each step brought him closer to the elevator, to the promise of rest and relaxation, but it also reminded him of the long hours he had spent working, the sacrifices he had made. Shadows stretched, distorted by the flickering lights. The unreliable lighting added to the eerie atmosphere, making the hallway feel like something out of a horror movie. Daniel had always found it unsettling, the way the shadows seemed to move and change shape. It was as if the building itself was alive, watching him, waiting for him to leave. He quickened his pace, eager to reach the elevator and put the unsettling feeling behind him. The silence was heavy, broken only by the distant drone of a malfunctioning copier. The sound was a constant reminder of the office's imperfections, the little things that never seemed to work quite right. It was a small annoyance, but one that added to the overall sense of frustration and fatigue. Daniel had learned to tune it out, to focus on his work and ignore the distractions. But tonight it seemed louder than usual, a persistent hum that grated on his nerves. He reached the elevator bank at the end of the hall. The sight of the elevator doors was a relief, a sign that his night was almost over. He pressed the button and waited, listening to the faint hum of the machinery as the elevator made its way to his floor. The wait felt interminable, each second stretching out as he stood there, eager to leave. A single elevator waited. The doors opened with a soft ding, and Daniel stepped inside, feeling a sense of relief wash over him. The elevator was dimly lit, the soft glow of the lights a welcome change from the harsh fluorescence of the office. He pressed the button for the ground floor and leaned against the wall, closing his eyes for a moment.
Finally, the elevator. It felt like a sanctuary, a small space where he could finally relax. The ride down was smooth, the gentle hum of the elevator soothing his frayed nerves. He thought about the night ahead, the few hours of sleep he would get before he had to do it all over again. Time to go home. The words were a comfort, a reminder that this long, exhausting day was finally coming to an end. He stepped out of the elevator and into the lobby, the cool night air a welcome change from the stuffy office. He took a deep breath, feeling the tension in his shoulders start to ease. It was time to go home, to rest, and to prepare for another day.
The elevator doors slid open with a groan. The air inside felt cold, stagnant. The elevator was old, its once polished brass tarnished and dull. A faint metallic scent hung in the air. Daniel stepped inside, his unease growing.
This elevator feels so old.
He pressed the button for the ground floor. Nothing happened. He pressed it again, harder. Still nothing. A wave of discomfort washed over him. He was trapped.
Come on, work. Why isn't it working?
The lights flickered. The air grew colder. Daniel could feel the hairs on the back of his neck stand up. The once familiar hum of the elevator now seemed ominous, almost threatening. He glanced around, trying to find some comfort in the confined space, but the flickering lights only added to his growing sense of dread. Daniel felt a chill run down his spine. He pressed the call button, his finger hovering over the alarm. His mind raced with thoughts of what could be causing this malfunction. Was it just a technical glitch, or was something more sinister at play? He hesitated, his finger trembling as it hovered over the emergency button, unsure if pressing it would make things better or worse. A distorted, staticky voice crackled through the speaker. He couldn't understand the words. The garbled sounds only heightened his anxiety. He strained to make out any recognizable phrases, but it was no use. The voice was too distorted, too alien. It felt as though the elevator itself was trying to communicate with him, but in a language he couldn't comprehend.
Hello? Is anyone there? His voice echoed back at him, sounding small and insignificant in the vast emptiness of the elevator shaft. He waited, hoping for a response, but all he got was more static. The silence that followed was deafening, amplifying his fear.
The elevator lurched, throwing him off balance. It started to move, but not down. The sudden motion caught him off guard, and he stumbled, grabbing onto the railing for support. His heart pounded in his chest as he realized the elevator was ascending, not descending. This was not the direction he was supposed to be going. It was going up. Fear coiled in his stomach. This wasn't right. He felt a wave of nausea wash over him as the elevator continued its upward climb. Each passing second felt like an eternity, and he couldn't shake the feeling that something terrible was about to happen. The walls seemed to close in on him, and he struggled to catch his breath.
No! This isn't right. Why is it going up? His voice was barely a whisper, filled with confusion and fear. The numbers on the panel flickered erratically, adding to his sense of disorientation. He pressed the buttons frantically, hoping to stop the elevator, or at least make it go back down, but nothing worked. He was trapped, at the mercy of whatever force was controlling the elevator.
The elevator stopped abruptly. Daniel felt a jolt, his heart racing as the sudden halt threw him off balance. He had taken this elevator countless times, but never had it behaved like this. The silence that followed was deafening, amplifying his growing unease. The doors shuddered open to reveal an unfamiliar floor. Daniel peered out, his eyes straining to make sense of the dimly lit surroundings. This wasn't his office floor, nor any floor he recognized. The air was thick with an unsettling stillness. It was dark, lit by a single flickering bulb. The light cast eerie shadows that danced on the walls, creating an almost hypnotic effect. Daniel hesitated, unsure whether to step out or stay within the relative safety of the elevator. Dust lay thick on the floor. It was as if this place had been forgotten, untouched for years. Each step Daniel took left a clear imprint, disturbing the thick layer of dust that had settled over time. A lone figure stood in the shadows, a janitor with a weary face. His eyes, though tired, held a certain intensity. He seemed out of place, yet oddly fitting in this forgotten corner of the building.
"Where am I?" Daniel's voice echoed, sounding small and uncertain in the vast emptiness. He hoped for an answer, some explanation for this bizarre turn of events.
The janitor spoke, his voice a low rasp. "This place, it's not meant for you," he said, his words carrying a weight that made Daniel's skin crawl. There was something in his tone, a mix of warning and resignation.
"This elevator, it doesn't go where you want to go." The janitor's words were cryptic, leaving Daniel more confused than before. What did he mean? Was this some kind of prank?
His words hung in the air. Heavy with warning, Daniel felt a chill run down his spine. The janitor's gaze never wavered, as if he was trying to convey something important, something Daniel couldn't yet grasp. Before Daniel could respond, the door slammed shut, plunging him back into darkness. The sudden movement startled him, and he stumbled back, his mind racing with questions and fear.
Wait, what do you mean? No! Daniel's voice was filled with desperation, but it was too late. The elevator had already begun its descent, taking him further away from any answers, deeper into the unknown. The elevator continued its ascent, each stop revealing another deserted floor.
Each floor was identical to the last, dark, dusty and silent.
The only sound was the hum of the elevator and the pounding of his own heart.
Time lost all meaning. Minutes bled into hours. The silence was oppressive, broken only by the occasional crackle of the intercom, each time a jumble of unintelligible whispers. The elevator lurched again, the lights flickering violently. When they stabilized, Daniel noticed something strange.
Shadows, they're dancing in the corners of my vision, dark and shapeless.
Whispers seemed to emanate from the walls, too quiet to decipher. He was surrounded by something unseen, something malevolent. His fear morphed into terror. He was trapped in a nightmare, and there was no escape. The elevator finally stopped. The doors creaked open, revealing his office floor. Relief washed over him, brief and fleeting. Something was different.
My desk, it's clean, my belongings, they're gone.
The clock on the wall read 11:57 p.m. He stepped out, his legs shaky. The air was heavy with the feeling of déjà vu. He was back where he started. The elevator doors closed behind him, the soft chime echoing in the empty hallway. He saw a figure in the distance, walking towards him. It was the janitor, pushing his cleaning cart. Relief flooded him. Maybe he wasn't alone. Maybe the janitor could help him escape this nightmare.
Excuse me, I seem to be stuck.
The janitor stopped, his gaze fixed on Daniel. The janitor's face was etched with a chilling familiarity. He spoke, his voice a low, raspy whisper.
This elevator, it doesn't go where you want to go.
The words echoed in Daniel's ears. The clock on the wall ticked past 11:58 p.m. The elevator chimed. The cycle began anew.